Dobro večer, poštovani gledaoci. 10 članova, 18 mjeseci istraživanja, 1106 stranica. To je ukratko izvještaj Nezavisne međunarodne komisije za istraživanje stradanja svih naroda u Srebreničkoj regiji od 1992. do 1995. godine. Izvještaj je ranije predstavljen u Banja Luci, a sada je predstavljen i javnosti u Beogradu. Večeras imamo čast da ugostimo u našem programu profesora Gideona Grajfa, stručnjaka za istoriju holokausta i Drugog svjetskog rata, modernu jevrejsku istoriju, istoriju koncentracionih logora i logora za istrebljenje i predsjedavajućeg pomenute komisije. Sa nama je član Nezavisne međunarodne komisije gospodin Markus Goldbah. Više od 10 godina predstavlja preživjele žrtve holokausta iz Europe, Izraela i Sjedinjenih Američkih Država na suđenjima nekadašnjim nacističkim počiniocima zločina. First of all, I would like to greet you and welcome you to the program of the Radio-televizija of Republika Srpska. Mr. Grajf, how do you see today the project of forming and working of the Commission when everything is finished? What was the experience of working in a team with other experts on such a complex research?
Thank you for hosting us, Mr. Goldbah and me. I have to say with deep satisfaction that I'm very pleased that we have done such a professional work, totally free, under fully freedom. The government of Republika Srpska did not intervene and in advance, a priori, told us that it will accept any consequence, any result of our work. I'm really proud of our work. We were a group of 10 experts, worldwide known, each expert in his field, and we did a very good work, and I'm proud to present this report, which contains over 1,000 pages, to the world to see the results. And our main goal was to eliminate all distortions which were gathered in the last years, to be loyal only to one thing, to the facts. And this we achieved. This is an objective, authentic report about the facts. Nothing else, only facts. So I'm very pleased.
Mr. Grajf, at the end of the conclusions of the report, you also gave recommendations regarding dealing with the past of all parties in order to truly open a dialogue and reconciliation process. Why do you think that such a commission and report are important for dealing with the past?
The condition for a better future is always knowing the past. If you don't know your own past, you cannot build new bridges for the future. So by revealing the truth, by being loyal only to facts, this is what we did, I think we paved the way for a better future for all people living in this area. I think they deserve, after so many years of conflict, to live a better life, a life of peace and freedom. And I think we contributed a lot for this process, which has to be now used on the basis of our report. We paved the way.
And what we also discussed is that what happens in that time in Yugoslavia and in Srebrenici region is not something that's been unique. It will continue in other places and other war theories in the world. And what we really try to do is establish a work that can be in future conflicts be used also to work on this conflict. So we really engaged also the parties of the conflicts to deal with each other, to not be isolated, Serbs and the Bosniaks. So they should come together. I think that's a very important objective here.
Right. May I add to Mr. Goldbach's
yes.
sentence, one sentence? Life is a chain. You cannot take out one part of the chain. It's past, present, and future. And what we did is to collect all these three chains for assuring a better future for all people in this region.
Did you expect that instead of academic dialogue you would receive as a reaction the decision of an individual, a foreign citizen in BiH, who insisted that it be promulgated by law by the BiH parliament without any discussion? I am talking about the act of former High Representative Valentin Incko.
Freedom of speech, freedom of research, freedom of publication is a basic for any democratic regime. So we will continue, no doubt. No law will stop this freedom of science.
You're
science
not terrified?
No, not at all.
Absolutely not.
In the report of the Commission, you stated the facts about the ethnic cleaning of the Serb people in Srebrenici region and the systemic mass crimes of the Muslim so-called BiH army, as well as the suffering of the Muslim population and the crimes of the Serb side. At the same time, you are labeled as denying a crime against Muslims. Do you deny crimes against Muslims or the qualification of crimes, that is specifically the shooting of Muslim prisoners of war in July 1995? And can you explain to us what is this really about? Why do you think that the specific crime in July 1995 cannot be qualified as genocide?
Okay. Well, I think that we are, as we said before, we have a scientific approach. We know, of course, we are aware that there have been several verdicts of the ICTY against war criminals who participated in the crimes at Srebrenica. When you look at the qualification for genocide, we think that also what you see in the past is that the Holocaust has caused the world to recognize the crime against a whole population, to qualify that as a genocide. The meaning of genocide was, the word was developed by the extinction of a race, of a genomenon. So we believe that, and we are also, the creator of the word also said during the conference, the establishment of this law also, it was said that a whole population should be, or was about to extinct, that the intention of the perpetrator was to get rid of a whole protected population, which would, in terms of Bosnia, mean all Bosniaks living in Bosnia should die. And when we look at the situation in 1995, we have to ask ourselves, was the action that took place here in Srebrenica, did it really mean that there was an intention to destroy the whole community of Bosniaks living in Bosnia-Herzegovina? And I think for us the answer is that there is not enough evidence that points to this direction. We know that apart from the term genocide, which is used generally, which describes, as we said just before, the extinction, the will to extinct a whole group of people, there is also the crime of genocide. So the crime of genocide was established to stop perpetrators before an actual genocide could happen. So in the terms of World War II, it was said that you shouldn't wait for the trains to roll to Auschwitz to intervene and to stop these perpetrators. So also the publishers of the Stürmer, the Nazi propagandists who labeled Jews as people not worth living, could have been stopped early on under the term of perpetrators of genocide. They would have to stand trial, and looking past, they could have put on trial and would be sentenced for genocide, even in the year of probably 1940, when no genocide actually had happened in our understanding of the definition of genocide. If you say that Srebrenica has been a remote place where only people from Srebrenica were about to be killed, you could say that it's a crime against humanity. But you can't say, when it's not aimed as a nationwide killing, then it can't qualify as genocide. I think there is even more to that you look at the intention. And when you look, what we found out is, when you look at the intention, you see that in 1995, the peace plan has already broken out between the nations of the conflict, and that the enclaves, Srebrenica, for instance, had been one reason for the peace plan not to be implemented, not to be signed. So even Izetbegovic, she went to Srebrenica and asked the population there, would you be willing to change your territory? Would you be willing to leave your territory for another area that we can have peace now? And I think understandably the population of Srebrenica, who lived there for a long time, declined this offer. They said they wanted to stay there, to live there. But judging by the fact that it was an obstacle to the peace process, and the Serb army at this time in 1995, they were awaiting an invasion of Croat attack, which took place months later only. So they wanted to have peace, to keep the gains they had, to keep the territory protected they had. And I think that weighs very heavily towards not a justification for what happened in Srebrenica, but as an intention that is completely different to a genocidal intention.
Okay, Mr. Grajf,
just to add two sentences, the term genocide was founded by a Jewish lawyer whose name was Raphael Lemkin in 1948. He was the founder of this term. And you mentioned in your question the attack against Serbian villages. It shows that we also were interested in the whole picture. So we mentioned this attack in our report, the systematic attack against Serbian villages, which started in 1992. It's part of the picture. You have to refer to it.
Okay, how do you see today, after all the knowledge about the history of conflict in this area and their causes and consequences, possible solutions to get out of the spiral of conflict and strengthen democratic processes and stabilize society?
First of all, leaving all prejudices, trying to leave hatred aside. I know it's very difficult because this is human nature. And facing facts. This is exactly what we did in our 2 years of hard work, intensive work, to look directly into the face of the facts. This needs courage. So if you ask me what we need here is civil courage, to put aside all the prejudices, put aside all the hatred, and look forward with some kind of optimism, with hope, because we have only one planet to live on, not two. Only one planet. And here we have to live, not there, here.
Okay. Mr. Goldbah.
And I think what's needed is also a process of reconciliation, that we really think that these people who've been affected should be addressed. And when you look now, it's more than 25 years since the end, and when you start in 1992, it's very much more than 25 years. There have a lot of victims have suffered here. And have we all addressed the suffering, or have we just had disputes about words, definitions like genocide? Shouldn't we continue to move on and really start a process that the parties of the different parties, Serbs and Bosniaks, would talk together, would participate together, that we made a recommendation that we would go to Srebrenica and have more, to inform the public more about where the incidents happened, what exactly happened. So the knowledge about the past is, I think, the key for the future, and that's really where we worked for.
How do you explain that the ad hoc massacre of members of the Muslim 28th Division in Srebrenica, which is a terrible crime, must be called genocide in world science, and the public and the torture and killing of about 3 million Soviet prisoners of war by Nazi Germany is not and can't be called genocide?
Well, you have to see that when Churchill in 1941, he said, there is a crime without a name going on in Russia. He referred to what we later call genocide. So he said a great number of people in a protected area were killed, no matter if they are participants in fightings, if they've been women, children, all were destroyed, their communities were destroyed, for the very reason that they belong to a certain race, if you can say that, to a specific group of people. So that would, I think, in fact qualify as a genocide, had it been there, the definition of genocide and the Convention of Genocide. And I said before, at this time we only had the definition and the Convention of Crimes Against Humanity, which was used. There is no indication that in Srebrenica region, either the killing of Serbs in the time frame of 1992 to 1994 meant that every Serb was about to be exterminated, was about to be killed. It doesn't mean that Muslims, Bosniaks, had the intention to destroy all Serbs in that region. And vice versa, of course, the killing of prisoners of war, which is a war crime, of course, does not mean that women and children were about to be killed. Does not mean that these women and the children should not have future generations of Bosniaks. And I think what we see now in the whole region is that you have a very good population of Bosniaks who live very prosperously, who don't look like the generation of Jews that have been murdered or their relatives have been murdered after World War II. They don't look like parts of Russia where Germans had killed so many innocent people. It's a whole different picture.
Okay, you're from Germany. How do you see the fact that members of the scientific, professional public in the region do not have the right to disagree with the qualification of a certain crime and to discuss it professionally at the scientific research level? What would this political practice be called in your countries?
Well, we said before that we very much believe that everything should be put on a scientific table, so to speak. We need to have a discussion that goes on, and we don't expect that anyone will stop us from doing our work. In Germany and I think in every other free country and democratic country, where you have the right to express your own opinion, where you have the right to speak, you can do so. Only if you hurt someone's feelings intentionally by refusing to accept his victimhood. As said earlier, there you can be stopped for the sake of the protection of those victims of previous crimes. But without that, and we've been very careful, we are very careful, I think everyone should be careful about not to cross a line here. Apart from that, scientific arguments should always be exchanged, and I think that's the only way to bring the people together, because what you can agree on certainly are principles of science and of knowledge.
Is this political practice known to you?
In Israel, of course, yes. Let me add something. History is also a science, and terminology has to be accurate. I get the impression that people are in love with the term genocide. Genocide does not fit to every event in the world. For the victim, it doesn't matter how he was killed, but we have to be accurate and precise. And genocide is not the right term for every catastrophe. It is very specific crime. And you have to be careful not to give it to all events in the world.
Yes.
It's important.
I really believe that. Genocide does not only describe a crime, but it also means that it's a cry for help. It's not even a cry for help. It means that every country on earth that is able to stop a genocide has to really intervene. So that's been discussed on the international legal level. How, when lies the responsibility to intervene in a genocide? And when you look at the political situation, you really have to ask yourself, when can a country feel obliged to intervene in another country's affairs? Should, like a killing of soldiers in a war, should that mean that any country can intervene in another country? Where do you bring on the lines there? I think it's very problematic, and it would probably, because it would not be lived by example in real life, would mean that a description as genocide would mean nothing. In the end, no country would feel any obligation to intervene. We have some areas in the world now where genocidal acts are happening right now, or where we have to be afraid of that situations get worse. We need the international community to intervene there, and we should not dilute the meaning of genocide and by the end let those people alone who suffer from a real genocide.
The last question. In its conclusion, the government of the Republika Srpska, after taking note of your report, condemned inter alia, the crimes on all sides and demanded the non-discriminatory prosecution of all perpetrators. She also expressed her belief that a true and comprehensive view of the war events in the Srebrenica and BiH regions would contribute to strengthening trust and tolerance among the people of BiH and reconciliation. Do you think that this will be possible after everything that certain representatives of the international community and political forces in Sarajevo have done through the attempt to legally ban the opening of any discussion about the events in Srebrenica region and the character of those tragic events?
I would like to complete this interview with an optimistic view. I would like, on behalf of all the 10 members, the distinguished members of our commission, to express the hope that our report will contribute something positive to this region. And so when you interview us next time, we will see some advancement, some amelioration of the condition here in this area. This was our hope, and for this we dedicated 2 intensive years of our lives to give hope to this region. We had constructive intentions, not destructive ones.
There is little after these words. I think there's little or nothing to add.
Okay. Thank you for your time. For Radio-televizija of Republika Srpska. I hope we will have the opportunity to discuss about your research many more times.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Poštovani gledalci, naši gosti su bili predsjedavajući i član Nezavisne međunarodne komisije za istraživanje stradanja svih naroda u Srebreničkoj regiji od 1992. do 1995. godine, gospodin Gideon Grajf iz Izraela i Markus Goldbah iz Njemačke. Ostanite i dalje uz program Radio-televizije Republike Srpske i prijatno večer.